All right, let's do this.
Welcome first-time listeners and returners to the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, especially our next incredible guest, who joins us today to talk about the intersection between race and sports, mental health, leadership, equality, social injustice, and white privilege. So grab your favorite deli sandwich or bagel and your favorite beverage, and let's do this together in the Sports Deli. So we are now joined by Aislin, Koenig. Now, Gordon told me there's two different pronunciations for your name depending on what part of the world we're talking about. Is that correct?
There is. So if you put my name into Google, it'll be pronounced Aislin, which is the Celtic way of pronouncing it. But my parents stuck with the way it sounds. When you read it, it's the way it sounds. So Aislin is the way to go. But to keep it real simple, most people just call me Ace.
There we go.
What about your last name? Like, isn't there a pronunciation that traces back to your country of origin?
Yeah, my dad's country of origin.
Right.
Yeah, so Koenig is German, but the original pronunciation is Koenig, and it usually has an O with an umlaut and an E in it. But when my grandfather immigrated to Canada, he dropped the E and the umlaut because he couldn't explain it at customs.
Now, this would be your father's father, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that oddly enough is the non-basketball side of the family, isn't it?
It is. My dad is the only basketball head over on that side. Everybody else is on my mom's side, all of her siblings, and even her dad still plays. So that's the basketball side. My dad is just the one crazy one out of his family, I guess you could say.
So if I have it right, and on your dad's side, he's the only one. Yeah. On your mom's side, the only person who doesn't play is your grandmother.
Yes, but at this point, she is an expert. You should see the long text messages she sends me before and after every game, making sure she gets her two-piece in about how I need to be aggressive or I need to pass or score more and do all these things. So she is by far not clueless when it comes to basketball. She is just as crazy as the rest of them.
Has she mentioned the Euro step in any of these texts?
That's one of the this or that questions. You can't ask her anything about that yet. She doesn't know about this or that.
I didn't hear
it. Well, I got to say, I'm very excited. I coach men's college basketball for 15 years, and then I've been on the women's side. This will be my 14th. In the last few years, I've been at a low-income first-generation girls' high school here in San Diego. And, you know, who knows where Gordon and I will be down the road. But right now we're enjoying our high school experiences. And when we had Jay Billis from ESPN on, he talked about some of his experiences in high school. And when Gordon and I listened to a lot of these coaches during the pandemic that offered a lot of testimonials and shared a lot of information with us, they talked about how to make your current experience the best experience. And so that's advice that I've, taken to heart. And I know, you have as well with all your different experiences in different countries, your sister plays as well. And so I'm just curious for those of, the people that are listening that don't know your story. You played soccer when you were younger and you were more serious about basketball, right around 12 years old. But give everyone a little bit of an idea of, why you decided to focus on basketball, some of your early coaching influences, and we'll talk later about what happened, at NC State and where you are now.
The way I came to basketball is pretty funny in the long run, considering I come from this long lineage of basketball players. I was very into soccer, but I was really only into it because I had longer legs than everyone and I could outrun everyone. So I just kick it past them and then run as fast as I could. And that made me pretty good, before skill was really important. So after a couple of years in that, sitting in the rain in the lower mainland, my parents said, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. You're not allowed to play outdoor sport. We refuse to sit in the rain, choose an indoor sport. And naturally, I chose basketball. That seemed like the only option. So that's how I ended up going to basketball. And then really, I started taking it seriously because my dad sat me down and I had a very real conversation with him at 12 years old where he told me, hey, we don't have college money for you. You have three options. Either you're going to pay it off yourself, you're going to get a scholarship for academics, or you're going to play sports and get a scholarship that way. And I mean, as a kid, a 12-year-old kid, the idea of having to get perfect grades or get a job sounds pretty terrible. So I went with basketball, and from then I told him I really wanted to be good. I wanted to get a scholarship, and that began the rigorous training schedule from then on.
Let's go back a second, Aislin. You know, I don't call you Ace, and I'm on the record as saying that. You talked about the start in soccer and why that was so appealing. How old?
I played soccer from, I think, 6 years old until 11.
So at 6 years old, what you really enjoyed about the sport was that you could succeed physically over the other players with great ease.
Well, when I first started, I think I was just put in soccer because everybody played soccer when they were younger, but I chose to continue because I was competitive, and I found that it was fairly easy until people start to learn skills.
Right. And do you feel the connection in any way, or acknowledge, I mean, we're acknowledging it now, but you acknowledge the connection of your competitive nature or spirit at that early age, because you're super competitive now?
I am. I mean, I was a super competitive, very, best way to put it, aggressive child. I would just like really, I wanted to be the best at everything I did. I wanted to make everything a competition. I was pretty domineering over my sister. We would play games, and like it had to be my way. So I think that that was just something innate in my personality, which when I stopped being as good, I didn't really care as much about moving on to basketball because I could let go of it, and then became the training. And I think that same competitiveness translated into training for basketball. And I finally had a direction, especially with my parents being so knowledgeable, that they could harness that competitiveness into something like productive. And I think it, now it's really paid off. Maybe then I was a handful, but pretty happy with what happened now.
Probably still, but it isn't the competitive nature piece really much harder now to find in student athletes? I bet you've been on numerous teams. And granted, when you're the caliber of player that you are, you're going to be on many teams where you're the best player. But I bet you've been on many teams where, maybe half the team didn't really compete very hard to begin with. Maybe they didn't know what compete meant. True or false?
I think as you get older, the motivation changes. I wouldn't say that people are more or less competitive. I would say that the importance they put on the game is very different. For me, I knew from a very young age that this is what I wanted to do for a career. I wanted to be the best, so I had to do that. I have played with many very talented women who have decided, sports got me here, but it's time to direct that focus into something else. So I wouldn't say that they're less competitive, because one of my best friends, very good basketball player, Erica Cassell, has channeled all of that into her professional life, and she has a very good job now. She's has her own apartment, her own car, all these things. And I think it's just as you get older, your priorities change. And luckily for me, I was in a position where I got to stay kind of, I wouldn't say childish, but I got to avoid the serious responsibilities of adulthood for at least a couple more years.
I want to ask you, because I do, much to Gordon's dismay, professional basketball skills training. And so what, Gordon?
It's not to my dismay. It's not that you do it. It might be how you do it.
Right. So how I do it. We can talk about that another time, but you probably train more like her dad than I do. And you probably train more like a contemporary basketball professional than I do. And I think at this point, regardless of how old I may or may not be, I'm thrown into the dinosaur category regardless. So I've accepted that, and let's just move on. Okay, so what I want to know is, for all the girls listening out there, especially, or the young boys, I have a hard time a lot of times trying to motivate them because they don't have that either introspection or that self-motivation that you seem to just sort of have when you were born, a nature versus nurture kind of thing. And what advice would you give to people out there who either have bad experiences early with coaches that, you know, they're either yelling at them or they don't really truly understand who they are as young girls or young boys, you know, or they don't have the work ethic to grind it out on a hot day or, you know, for a couple hours in the gym. You know, what advice would you have for people like that to find their, you know, their inner passion or their, you know, their work ethic?
Well, I have to admit, it wasn't always this perfect workhorse mentality. I mean, you go into your teenage years and things start to become distractions. And I was very fortunate that in my household, now looking back, I feel that I was fortunate. Maybe not in the moment that I feel very fortunate, but I had my family around me who was constantly pushing me. I mean, there are stories all over the place about crazy moments where, you know, like right after a game, if I played poorly, we went straight to the track and my dad ran me for an hour. So it's definitely not all perfect moments. And you have to find the way people are motivated. Sometimes it has to come from outside. I mean, you have a really long day and you know you're supposed to go out and work out and it just doesn't feel like you want to, and different things motivate different people. The way my parents motivate me is very different than the way they motivate my sister. So to find that passion in yourself, I think if people continue to do it, they do love it. I don't think that it's something they lose passion. I think they lose direction, and just having something that kind of, you know, snaps them back into it, like, here, this is why you're doing it. This is how we're going to get there. Let's move forward. So for me, it was, we're going to yell at you and work you until you're exhausted, and it's going to create this anger inside you that just makes you want to keep going. And differently for my sister, it's, hey, we're going to like motivate you by telling you this is what you could get. This is how, like, I'm a little bit more positive. I was good with negative kind of, and she's good with positive. And I think understanding what motivates people from a coach's perspective is really good, but also from an athlete's perspective, when you have that bad day, surrounding yourself with people who understand that part of you and are able to pull a little bit more out of you when you don't really want to give it.
Yeah.
So, Aislin, we've now got a little technology at Skyline, and all the kids that have an interest in basketball, when they register, they check off a box in this interface that says, I'm interested in baseball or basketball. And we have 85 boys who have expressed an interest in tryouts.
Yeah.
And I know, and you know, and maybe everybody knows, you know, 85 of those kids are not working right now. They're not out taking 300 shots or making 300 shots. So here's the question that I want to pose to you, because I don't find that young people, and sometimes not young people, really know how to work out. Can you kind of give us a glimpse of what your workout maybe used to be like, or what it is like, what you would think it should be like for a 13-year-old boy or girl trying to make their middle school or high school team?
Okay, so back in high school, it was basketball all the time. I mean, I preferred to be out on the court than at home. I didn't have a cell phone for a really long time, which probably helped. I didn't have social media, and I realized that this is not something that's really feasible at this day and age. Everybody has it at this point. But I just enjoyed being outside, and when I was in high school, I didn't really know how to train. My dad did a lot of it, and I would try and replicate what he did. But just being on the court with a basketball, going for a run, doing really the bare minimum is more than a lot of people are doing. I mean, if we're being honest here, how many kids are going for a run every day? Even if it's a 1-2 mile run, it makes a big difference if you do it day after day and other people are not. So I think if you're not sure, first of all, YouTube is a wonderful, wonderful place to find drills. I think you type in basketball drills and there's like millions of videos of you can do in the garage, on a driveway, on a basketball court, no hoop, like cone dribbling. You have all of these options. So that basketball side, I think as long as you have the desire to actually look for it, there's options everywhere. And if you're going to a court, you get up shots, you can be there for 45 minutes, work out super hard, or you can be there for 3-4 hours and just hang out and get a bunch of shots up and do that, and that's still making you better. Now, if you want to take the extra step, you start doing the physical stuff. I remember I was starting out and I didn't feel very good, so I went up to our back alley behind our house and I found a long stick and I started doing ladders over a stick. I mean, you can make it work. There's so many options. Just jump up and down over a stick, jump up and down on a curb. All those things can improve you very quickly, and go for a run. Like, honestly, fitness, as a young woman now who has gone through all of that, running and doing the fitness stuff, the defensive slides, the stuff that really sucks, goes so much further than anything else that you could do. And I would just, do what you can, search it out a little bit, and then anything is better than nothing.
Yeah, so you would advocate for a regular routine, even if it wasn't a perfect routine. Like, is it better in your mind to do something 5 of 7 days a week, regularly at the same time, in the same way? Or is it more important to maybe have the perfect workout on Monday and not practice again maybe till Friday, and then have another good workout and then wait till Tuesday?
I think that the repetition is incredibly important. If you can do a perfect workout, why aren't you doing it every single day? Or even if you're tired, why aren't you doing a version of that that's maybe shorter? But if you do that, if you have that option, you should be doing it every day anyways. And especially in a time like this where you're stuck at home, where you're not able to have all those same distractions and do all those same things, it's a perfect time to start a routine. If you are in high school and you have class from I don't even know. I'm so far removed from it now. When did they start school?
Right now, they don't start school, unfortunately. We don't know what they're doing.
Well, at whatever point in the morning that you end up having to start your classes online, you could wake up maybe 2 hours before you would usually go and go get an hour workout in, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to do ball handling every single day and shooting every single day and cardio and lifting and do all those things every single day, although we wish we could and we probably should. But getting something in is so much better than doing nothing, and that repetition is really going to take you leaps and bounds every single day. Because if you say, I'm going to work out perfectly Monday and then I'm going to take Tuesday and Wednesday off, and then by the time you hit Thursday, maybe your schedule has changed. Maybe you don't have the energy. Maybe you don't do that. So do what you can in the days and the time that you have, as opposed to planning for something later.
You mentioned that you didn't have a phone for a while. That was probably something that we should talk about, because now the kids, I took my phone away from my daughter already, and I just noticed a change in her behavior and her routines. And you were also part of an era, probably the first era, where you could have been a good defender or a good rebounder, or done something else besides be a great shooter. And now that's not possible. You really have to be able to shoot the ball. And I had a client this morning, he's a 7th grader. He can do every move. He's got hezzies, he's change of pace, he's fake spins, he's triple crosses, and his shot is Lonzo Ball. And so I said to his dad, I'm not doing one other thing with you, whether it takes a month or 6 months, until we fix the shot. You're not going in a circular motion, because you're going to be shooting 38% from the floor when you're in high school instead of 48%. So talk a little bit about not just maybe your go-to moves, your favorite move, off the bounce or from a triple threat position, but how important being able to shoot and practicing your shot is now versus maybe 20 years ago?
Wow, 20 years ago I was
When you were 2,
but
right.
um, but to answer that question, I think in the way the game's played now, especially with the length and the speed of players and the quickness of the game, being able to shoot opens up so many avenues. Obviously, you need to be able to handle, you need to be able to make those moves, to pass, to do those things. But if you can't shoot, it really limits your effectiveness when you're on offense. I mean, I can tell plenty of stories from high school all the way to college where we knew somebody couldn't shoot, so we wouldn't guard them. We would double team, and anytime they started to dribble, then we would guard them. It would be, but it really limited the success of the team as a whole. And I think that's just how the game has developed since the era that you're speaking on. But for me personally, I am not the quickest player. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm the most athletic. I have my moments, but I am not going to be the fastest, quickest person on the floor. I can, however, be the best shooter on the floor because that's in my control. I can practice that. I can prepare for that. So being that type of shooter allows me to get extra space. So the fact that I'm not the fastest, I'm not the quickest player, I still force people to play me close, which gives me an advantage. So I can go and use all those fun, exciting moves to get to the basket, to get to a pull-up, to do all those things. So shooting is definitely my specialty at this point, and the better I've played shooting, if you see my games, especially in the last couple we just played here in Switzerland, they play off me until I start hitting threes. And the second I start hitting threes, they start coming out at me, and it really opens up drives, it opens up passing, it opens up all these things. So I think that it's almost to the point where a good shot from distance from the three opens up the rest of the game. It's kind of a gate, like you have to get past that moment where they say, okay, well, she is a threat or he is a threat at the three, and then you can utilize all of those other things that you've been practicing.
No, wait, hold on a second, Gordon. Did that opponent that you played who was not guarding you not see the 10 threes that you hit in the national game when you were playing for the Canadian national team?
Well, like, I'm not well known in Europe, really. I mean, from people who play the national team, maybe, but
wait a second. Wait. Mike isn't in Europe. He's not even in a league, and he knows you hit those 10 threes. So how well known do you really need to be?
Well, I am young here. Like, I'm playing with one of my teammates is 33. So, I mean, she'll be the first one to tell you, don't worry. But they're all professional athletes. They've been professional athletes for a long time. These are friendly games, so we're not really they're friendly game tournaments, so we're not really scouting, we're not really doing all those things. Like, they might have seen me in the game before, but there's no film on me in Europe. They don't know how I'm going to play in this set. So I was letting them fly. I think so. In the first tournament here, I hit 14 threes in 2 games, 7 in 1 quarter. And then this last game, I hit 6 in the first half, and then 2 more in the second. So this last game we just played, so I'm averaging about 6 threes a game at this point. But they don't really know who I am, so they switch, and a big girl will be on me, and she has her hands down, so I'll just shoot. And so I hit 3 like that, and finally they come out at me, and then suddenly it opens up the rest of the game, not only for me, but for my teammates. When I finally come off that screen, everybody is rotating over, and it opens that up. So my shot has definitely became like the key to getting the game going for me.
So how many shots did you get up a week when you were maybe in high school? And then, I have a close friend who's an assistant coach at Kansas State, and so they're required to get up 600 shots a day. So when you were at NC State, what are the expectations for you there? Is it dribbling, then shooting, or just catch and shoot? What types of different things do you work on?
Well, in high school, to answer that question, I was shooting almost every single day in some capacity. As far as how many makes I was getting up, how many shots in total, it really depended on the schedule for the week, where I was getting the shots up, what I was doing. But I was working out with a basketball in some way almost every single day. When I got to NC State, it changes. The schedule becomes a little bit more rigorous. Your responsibilities become a little bit bigger. So I think for me personally, I just wanted to be in the gym as much as I could where I would get a good workout in. There was a time where I was counting all of my shots, my makes, and I probably pushed a little bit too hard, and I actually wasn't shooting very well in the game. And I think it's important to find your balance, because I find that I have to be fairly loose to play well. I can't be thinking about it too much, overly rigid. If I shoot too much the day before or the morning of, it starts to put pressure in my head, I guess. I'm not quite sure. And I'm lucky enough that I've been practicing long enough now that I don't have to shoot all that much before a game to feel prepared. It's kind of muscle memory. But at NC State, we didn't really have requirements, but it was definitely stuff that coaches paid attention to. They can see when we get in the gym. When our cards scan in, we have cameras, they would see who's getting shots up before practice, after practice, who's working out extra with coaches. So we didn't have like a specific number. Everybody was allowed to kind of find their own niche, but we were all in there working within our own schedule and with the coaches to get our shots up.
So obviously you're a great shooter, and you averaged a career high, I think it was your senior season, 11 points per game in the Atlantic Coast Conference while you were at NC State. But what impressed me more, probably because I was a point guard, was your assist to turnover ratio. You average almost 2.5 assists for every turnover, and that doesn't take into consideration, you putting people in position to score and maybe they had missed the shot. So it probably would have been higher in some instances, not to throw anybody under the bus, but
yeah, we won't name names, Elisa.
Right. Okay. Make sure we get her email address. We'll send her the link to the pod.
Oh, she's gonna find
I know.
us.
I used to tease her all the time. We lived together.
That's outstanding. So just talk about distributing the basketball and the importance of that, and how much you enjoy that just as much as you do shooting.
If I'm being honest, I think I enjoy the distribution of basketballs and kind of the orchestrating of games more than I do shooting and scoring. I love basketball. I love the way it works. I love psychology behind it, everything, the mechanisms and how it would be successful. That actually very much excites me. So like when I'm able to do a good pass, when I'm able to set other people up, have a play run perfectly and see an option before it really happens, and I get to throw the pass early, like that is some of the most exciting parts of basketball for me. So I trained as a point guard my entire life, played shooting guard for 2 years at NC State because of how the roster worked out, ended up back in the point guard position, and was just so unbelievably happy and excited that I got to be back in that role again of being able to distribute the ball, because I think scoring is something that sometimes doesn't feel like it takes a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of knowledge. It doesn't take you. If you're a talented athlete, you will find a way to score. If you shoot the ball enough times, the ball will go into the basket. But the practice and the knowledge and the study that goes into distributing a ball well, I take a lot of pride in that.
Now, with this mature take on the game, which some might call a high basketball IQ, do you have any feelings about how the game is or is not growing, evolving, changing, what it's like, the style of play? Any thoughts about that? The difference between the ACC and other leagues, the difference between the U.S. and European play?
You talked about me asking multiple questions. You just asked her 3 questions.
Yeah, but I'm me. I get to do that.
I got you.
Listen, I have been answering Gordon's questions like this for years at this point,
Whatever.
so I know what he's going for here. To give you a simple answer that kind of covers all of that, I think that the game is moving to be more fast-paced, especially if you look at some of the rule changes that are happening in the NCAA. It's starting to move closer towards how FIBA operates with shorter shot clocks. inspiring more scoring, quicker play. I have to admit the 14-second shot clock reset is fairly difficult to play with now. It feels like you're a little bit rushed, but it definitely has changed the game in terms of the speed and how efficiently you have to work. I think that the only limit to that is, are you becoming too shot based? Are you, and this is weird coming from a shooter because I love to shoot, but are we going to be shooting too much? Is the game going to lose something of the knowledge and the skill that I was talking about in the distribution in that, or is that going to grow? And I guess that's something that we're going to have to see as it continues along the line and people start to get more comfortable with this new shot clock and the new rules. But that is the one limit I see. Are we going to lose some of the same thing that you see kind of with the men's game that kind of happened a little bit? Are we going to lose the team aspect, the excitement of making a great play, of really good defense, or is it just going to turn into one-on-ones? And I think that's something we'll have to see in the future.
Now, before we talk about, the WNBA and some other topics, just kind of to wrap up the last piece, which is I guess a basketball philosophy piece or a view of the game piece. What are family basketball conversations like?
Well, I try to limit the amount of exposure I have to those conversations. I'm not a part of the group chat, so I get to have my own feelings about the game and not have to witness potentially thousands of messages that are going on during, before, and after the game. But like I said, my grandmother, she emails me paragraphs that I have to scroll through to read after and before games. My parents always want updates, but our conversations come from a place more of how satisfied are you? What do you think you did well? What do you think you didn't do well? How do we improve those things that you feel like you didn't do well in the next game? And this is how we saw it. So it's become a lot more constructive. As I was younger, it was a lot more yelling. It was a lot more, well, that was really bad. We're just going to go run on the track, or we're going to go to the court, or we're going to go get shots up. But now it's a lot more about, like, how do we be better? How do we continue to improve? And, a really bad game, maybe we don't talk about it right away. We let me deal with it emotionally first, and then we do it. Like, that's something my grandmother's really good at. She knows if I have a bad game not to text me until the next morning, and then I get the paragraph as I, wake up. But, yeah, I think our conversations as a family have matured at about the same level I have, so it works out really well.
Well, we may come back to this and talk a little bit about your sister's game and how different it is, but Mike wants to kind of move into some WNBA topics. So, Mike, why don't you go ahead and take us there?
I did want to ask, though, do you like watching film? Because as they say, film don't lie, right?
I really do. The one thing I hate about film, though, is that it's never as good as you thought it was. And so you feel like you had this fantastic, amazing game, and you're like, oh, I scored 30 points. I only had a couple of turnovers. I got a bunch of rebounds. And then you watch yourself run down the court, and you're like, what is wrong with me? Do I have a limp? Right. And all this stuff. It was like, oh, I took too many shots. That shot was ugly. I was lucky it went in.
That's funny.
The one downfall.
It's never as bad as I thought it was.
But see, I feel like we're opposites on that in regards to how we view things in general.
Well, I'm not playing.
That's true.
Right. So I walk away from the game thinking, 12 players were horrible. And then I get to watch video, which I don't call film anymore because there's no film involved in it. But the last thing I need to do is start calling things film. That's going to put the last nail in the coffin. I'm not doing that. And then I realized when I watched the video, it wasn't as bad. We didn't stink. We did make some reversing passes. We did take care of the basketball a little bit. We did have some easy opportunities. So, I don't know.
Maybe you should be more critical of yourself and your team.
I can't.
So, let me ask you. Well, first, Kobe Bryant obviously had a big impact on the game. He sort of reinvented himself in a number of different ways. And I think a lot of people saw Oregon's Sabrina's reaction. to his death. And, you know, she's obviously very close with the family and has spent time with the family since. Kobe was a big advocate for girls and women's basketball. And I'm just curious how you took the news and what he meant to you, you know, while you were still in college, obviously also as a senior.
So what's crazy is we were actually coming back from a film session before a game. We were playing UNC at home. So we had been in film. We came down and we were all starting to kind of get ready for the game, do our kind of routine. We still had a couple hours, but it wasn't too rushed. And Grace Hunter runs into the room and goes, "Kobe was just in a helicopter crash. They think he's dead." And she's the Joker
And
of
you
the
didn't
team.
believe her.
So we're like, oh no. And
Yeah.
she just ran out. Like she ran in, like screamed it at us and like ran out. And so like we were like, oh, there's no way that this is true. Like that can't be real. She's messing with us, right? Like this is some joke. Like she's a joker. Like she's just trying to prank us. And then we all pulled out our phones and looked it up, and it was just dead silence. So she comes back in the room this time and she's crying. Kobe is her favorite player, like, you know, just some like very distraught. And we have TVs all around our locker room, so we turn all of them on to different news stations. Everybody's pulling out their laptops to pull up different news stations, and we're just sitting there, and the entire team is just together and like watching as they're trying to get film of the wreckage and everything. And it was silent, and we had a game still to prepare for, but we were in this moment of like mourning and sadness. And it was a really strange feeling because it doesn't feel real, and you don't really have the time, especially because you have a game to understand what's going on. So we're all still trying to get ready, and we're all talking about, people are crying. Everybody's getting text messages from everybody, like their family members and friends. And it's kind of like we're talking about it, but we're not really like acknowledging what's happening. And then we have a game. So we're out on the court and we're playing, and everybody, it's just a really uncomfortable, weird vibe in the gym. Like at this point, it has been confirmed that he's passed away, but they're trying to figure out who else was in the helicopter with him. And it was just a really strange experience having to play a game and then coming back out and coming back to reality that this had happened. As far as his impact, I would have to say, for me, I'm young, so I didn't actually get to experience Michael Jordan. So for me, growing up, Kobe was my Michael Jordan. He was that player for me. Just being able to watch him as a kid growing up and being inspired by that. I mean, I had the all purple Kobe 7s. I had all like, you know, Kobe was, I had matching purple basketball shorts that matched my purple Kobe 7s and all this stuff that I used to wear all the time. Like I loved it. And he was such a big impact on that, in that perspective, watching him play, trying to kind of be like him and like emulate things that he did. And then after he retired, the way he was advocating for female sports, WNBA in particular, really was inspiring and exciting and like a driving force behind a lot of the conversations I feel like that were happening at the time about WNBA and pay and all of those things. So that loss really hit home, I think, especially for people of my generation, really hard. Like I know my parents were really upset and crying about it too, but to watch kind of somebody who seems untouchable, who is kind of like your God amongst men, leave this world before you really understood or could come to terms with it, was a pretty difficult moment of this last year.
Yeah, it was definitely difficult, and I didn't really realize the magnitude of it until I started talking to a lot of my players and, you know, people that I knew at the college level, and, you know, they felt the impact the same way that you did. And, you know, I was glad that he sort of reinvented himself, because, you know, there was a lot of things early on that were difficult to sort of wrap our heads around, not just his play on the court, but some other things that happened. And the way that he went out, and that's sort of his legacy now, and in terms of how he impacted female sports and girls and young women, is, I'm emotional about it too. Like, you know, I'm sort of tearing up talking about it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Aislin mentioned something that, I think is relevant to, the experience of, having grown up with Michael Jordan, but Kobe being the star. And you said something earlier. You said, you're talking about drills, and you said, there's all kinds of drills on YouTube. And so, one of the great things, if there is a great thing, one of the great things is that, there's a different kind of immortalization for somebody like Kobe than even in Jordan's time. Now you can go and watch videos of Jordan, but that era of video, not as great as it could be. But the Kobe era stuff, the stuff where he talks at camps and he tells kids about, it appeals to me because he preaches simplicity and footwork and moving without the basketball. So he's talking my language. So so to young players who are listening, you can go and watch Kobe play. You can't watch him play live. He's not still here. You can go and watch Jordan play, and you can get something out of that. The joy of the game is still there.
Well, we know you have aspirations to, and you mentioned in other podcasts that the pandemic may have affected some things with regards to you and the WNBA, and maybe this is a blessing in disguise. You get some experience, and I didn't mention this before, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. I've watched a lot of women's college basketball over the last 4 years in particular, and your shot is as pure as it comes. It is pretty to watch, and there's no doubt in my mind that you can compete at that level, and I'm pretty sure you'll get your opportunity, and I hope you do. And speaking of the WNBA, what have your thoughts been on how they've handled things, the bubble, the play? Some players opted out. I want to transition a little later into Maya Moore and what she's doing, and the message that the WNBA is trying to send along with a lot of pretty much every sport from NASCAR to hockey to the NBA to the WNBA. So, yeah.
Well, as far as the bubble, I've heard some varying stories, but the majority of them are pretty positive. There were some issues with food and those things, but I think they've worked them out pretty well. It's not an ideal situation anyway it spins. Even if the food was fantastic and everything was perfect, like you're still sequestered in this small zone, the bubble. Like you don't have the same social life, the same access to things that you would normally have access to. So any way it goes, it's not going to be terribly fun. And also, there's going to be kinks, and it sounds like they've worked most of them out.
And you're in Florida, where people seem to be allergic to wearing masks.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother issue that that they can't really control. But I think that they've done overall fairly good job. The games are getting fairly good coverage. We'd always love to see more. Let's be honest. Well, nothing would ever be enough. Like they could show us every single possible game, and we still probably want more. But I think they've done a really good job. And then with players opting out and stuff, you see people who do it for health reasons, people who do it for mental health reasons, and I think that it's important to allow those players to do those things because at the end of the day, like athletes are still human beings, and as you were saying for Maya Moore, and the way that the WNBA has been approaching social justice, I think has been incredibly impressive. I think they've been ahead of the game in a lot of things early. They were the spearhead for putting the names on the back of the jerseys that eventually caused the push for the NBA to put the stuff on the back of their jerseys, and really allowing their players to express themselves. And I think that has been really important and also very inspiring, especially as an athlete, to know that the things you care about, you're going to be allowed to advocate for them, and you're still allowed to be a person and a person who cares about things. You're not just expected to go out and play and not the same issues and stuff like the NFL was dealing with. So I think overall, I'm not there. I don't know all of the details, but from an outside perspective with a little bit of knowledge from some friends and acquaintances, that it seems like overall it's fairly decent, I would say. Like, it's not perfect. I don't think it could be perfect, but they're doing a pretty good job over there.
How would you respond to fans who say things like, I just want to be entertained. I don't want any politics involved in sports. Just play the games. What would you say to those kinds of fans?
Turn the TV on at tip off and turn it off when the buzzer sounds.
Perfect.
If you are just there for the game, just watch the game. Nobody's telling you have to watch the interviews. Nobody's telling you have to watch the anthem. Nobody's telling you to do any of those things. Show up for the game, and then it won't affect you. I mean, you can't expect people to not care about things, to not speak out about things, and you can limit your exposure to it, but you can't stop other people from doing what they feel they need to do.
Great answer.
I don't know how you feel. I wish women's professional sports and intercollegiately, your voice, for lack of a better phrase, carry more weight, because obviously we're still not where we need to be in terms of the Me Too movement, the LGBTQ community, women's voices going as far as men's voices. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, what the WNBA has done, what Maya Moore has done with Jonathan Irons, helping him get free from jail after serving, a big part of his life sentence for something that he didn't do, and others. It's just something that I wish, and that's why on this platform we've talked a lot about the WNBA and what they're doing, and I know this platform is important for you as well. You've tweeted about it, you've talked about various things with regards to the Black Lives Matter movement. So I applaud you and all the players for what they're doing, and we should listen more, because I find it amazing that people don't want to listen to what you have to say, whether it's politics or anything else, because student athletes or professional athletes are the ones that have probably the best understanding of selflessness, teamwork, time management, all the things that go into being who you are in those specific instances. And so, don't let anyone deter you or anyone else, whether it's, how they handled Kelly Loeffler and what she was doing, the ridiculousness of her ignorant comments, or anybody else who wants to, call the movement a Marxist movement, which is absolutely the most asinine, response that you could have in terms of trying to talk about racial inequalities in this country. You played obviously with a diverse group, at NC State. I don't know how it is in Switzerland, but this is all you've known your whole life. You've only known diversity and inclusion and difference. And so what do you say to people out there who are maybe in the gray area, who are so resistant? And resistant is understandable, right? People are ignorant and no fault of their own. So what do you say to people if we're trying to change the narrative to people in that gray area who are maybe thinking of coming to the other side, but they're just not sure, how to get there?
I think that is kind of a difficult task for sure. I mean, obviously that's why we're talking about it. I think that there's so much misinformation and anger that is boiling on each side, and it's hard to come to a point where you can communicate effectively, because most communication breakdowns are in the head. I mean, we think we're saying one thing, they're hearing a different thing. They're understanding a different thing than what we're saying. So I think that a lot of the arguments we're not even arguing about the same things. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a big part of the miscommunication, is that the same way that people talk about women's rights, where as far as, pro-life and pro-choice, those are two completely different things. Why are they arguing? You can be pro-life but still be pro-choice, and vice versa. Those aren't opposite sides of an argument. Those are two separate arguments altogether. And I think that's kind of an issue that we as a society have, is that we're arguing about things that are not necessarily the same thing, because the people in the gray area might not be, probably are not racist human beings, are not sexist, are not homophobic, but they're arguing about the wrong things and connecting the wrong things together. So I think that really, if we're going to make leaps and bounds in the situation, because obviously there's people who are never going to change, and we have to accept that. But the people in the middle, we have to really find a way to communicate exactly what it is that we're arguing about. because I think we would find on the majority of things, we're not arguing about the same thing. They probably agree with the major points, and it's this one thing that they're getting stuck on, or vice versa, that like is stopping the discussion, the communication, and the growth. So as like I've had conversations like this before, where somebody goes, well, not all police officers are bad, and I'm not saying all police officers are bad. That's not something that I am saying. I'm sure that the police officers in your life are good people. What I'm saying is they're part of a institution that is corrupt and allowing things to happen. So, and we go in this argument back and forth, and suddenly I'm like, whoa, like, what are we even arguing about here? You think that the institution is bad, and you think racism is bad, but you're caught up on these two people and that's not even what I'm saying. So I think that if we are able to find exactly what it is that we are disagreeing about, and even if there is a disagreement in the first place, I think that that would make a big difference in a lot of the discussions that are happening.
You tweeted recently about The Social Dilemma, the new documentary from Jeff Orlowski. And I think in one of his interviews, he talks about people now I think 60% of people get their news from social media, not from actual news sources. And so that's feeding the dissonance in conversation, isn't it?
I would agree. I mean, even for me, I am very aware of the fact that I don't watch news channels. First of all, I don't have access. I'm here in Switzerland. I don't really have access to them. But also, sitting down and taking time to watch the news takes a lot more time than it does to scroll through a feed real quick. Mm-hmm. And in school, in our classes, in our ethics classes, we did talk about like social media and how you get in that toxic cycle of everybody just is saying the same thing, and you're just getting radicalized into this one idea. And I think that social media is a wonderful platform to get information out there, but at the same time, it can't be the only way. So I'm one of those people, if I see something, I go, oh, that makes me feel some type of way. Like, it makes me angry, that makes me sad, that makes me do that. Automatically, it's a Google search. I'm looking, I'm researching, I'm doing that. I'm not just going to say, oh, this is fact, let me reblog it, let me repost it, retweet it, do all that, send that out, and then create this storm of misunderstanding.
Right.
I think it's a good place to start your knowledge, but not where it should end.
When you watched the documentary, Aislin, did you feel like you wanted to make some personal changes in the way social media, the role it played in your life, or no?
Me personally, I use social media as a business kind of marketing myself to the world. So I don't view social media so much as social. It's a business in my mind. So really, they were saying at the end, like, turn all your notifications off. I've never had my notifications on. I hate seeing things pop on my screen. I hate all of that. I mean, I'll have text messages, but that's absolutely it. And phone calls, but like nothing from any social media site, from my email, nothing of that pops up on my screen. My phone's constantly on silent. I hate having my phone out, like at dinners, at places. Like if I'm sitting with somebody and having a conversation, my phone is either away in a bag or face down, like on the edge of the table. That's not something I'm interested in. Like, I would rather sit in comfortable silence with you than be on our phones together. So I found that I didn't feel like I needed to change a whole lot about what I did, because that's something that, as knowing my dad, you probably realize he's probably ingrained that in my head from a young age, that's not a health. So it's really, I almost struggle to market myself on social media because of that fact. But social media to me is very much business, very much it's like a resume to the world,
right,
as opposed to my way of connecting to the world.
Isn't there a little bit of a conundrum in that, you almost can't be it without it, right? I mean, it's so pervasive that whether you have a hardware store or a fledgling, professional basketball career, you have to have a presence of some kind. Somebody has to manage that presence. I mean, wouldn't it be great if somebody else managed it for you or for us? But that's not always the case. And yet here is this information from a very good documentary maker that basically says, you know, you're getting notifications because you're having feelings of loneliness or depression, and the internet knows it.
Yep. It's something that's just a part of us.
Yeah, I remember the one scene when I watched it, and I didn't know about it until you tweeted about it, and then I watched it. The little 13-year-old girl who had all the happy feedback on her post that she made, and then someone made a negative comment about her ears, and then she covered up her ears and looked in the mirror and started crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what happens to, you know, young girls, probably in particular more than boys, I would imagine, and no one knows it. And then this, you know, sadly leads to teen suicide and other
Image
things.
distortion, yeah.
Image distortion, eating disorders. Yeah.
Well, as somebody who didn't grow up with the same thing, but watching my sister go through it, it's kind of insane. Like the amount of, and I don't really like filters all that much because I'm very conscious of the fact that I need to love who I am when I look in the mirror and when I look at myself in a camera. Obviously, when you post pictures and it is on social media and you're trying to build this platform to market yourself, you are editing them, but I'm not changing the way my face looks. I'm not changing that. But you see people like my sister's generation who have grown up with filters their entire life,
Right.
who almost can't take a picture without a filter and like the way they look. So I actually find myself being very conscious when I'm like on social media, you know, the filters are there, they're cool, they look fun, they're exciting, like whatever. It's kind of nice to like change things up, but I'm very conscious in the ones that I use so that they don't change the way my face looks.
Well, they're deceptive.
They are. Some of them are very, very subtle. Like you don't notice it. So I'm always making sure that like I am limiting the amount of times that I use filters like that, because it's so easy for those subtleties to start turning to bigger, and suddenly your lips are huge, your nose is tiny, your face is smaller, and your eyes are bigger, and you didn't even realize it was happening, and now you only like the way you look in that, as opposed to just who you are. And you know, I even see it with my sister and the people at her age a little bit, where they're constantly doing this, and it is really sad and very scary because you see them and they're beautiful people. Everybody's beautiful. Like there are very few people that you can actually look at and be like, oh, that's not a beautiful person. Like everybody has something about them that makes them beautiful. And I think that this the filters and the plastic surgery and all these stuff that we're seeing on such high levels and intensities in our lives are changing the uniqueness of beauty. And so especially for me, and I've had conversations with my sister just trying to talk to her about it, like, hey, like filters are cool, they're fun, use them, but understand that they don't make you beautiful. They just make you look this certain type of way, and you need to do that. And it's sad that we have to have those conversations, but it's something that I hope that parents are doing, that siblings are doing, family members are doing, because without it, I think people would get really lost in that that toxic cycle.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. Has the relationship, you're alluding to the fact that the relation, you're Aislin, you're alluding to the fact that your relationship with your sister has evolved, right? I mean, you started out in this talking about how competitive you were and how you used to maybe treat her, and now you're in your 20s, now you're overseas, you're by yourself, and now you're having conversations with your sister about filters and social media. She's
Basketball.
She's a very different person than you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very different skill set. How many times were you MVP in the province? Three? Three-time MVP, four-time provincial champ?
3 times.
Okay.
I played 1 year in the U.S.
Okay, well, okay. So that is a big pair of shoes. That's a big pair of Kobe 7s to fill. So talk a little bit about McKendra's game, how you see it, where it's going, and what your relationship is like with her as a guide.
Wow. Okay. So it has changed quite a lot. Like I said, I was a very domineering sister. I wanted everything to be my way. I'm a very confident, boisterous person. I kind of just bullheaded my way over everything my entire life. It just kind of fell in place for me. And that extended into my relationship with my sister. And I wish I could have been different. I wish we could have been closer, but I think that the age difference of 5 years plays a big part into that, and just our personalities. She is an incredibly clever, funny, talented person who I am finally getting the chance to get to know and build a relationship with as we've gotten older. And I think that the biggest part of that helped our relationship grow was the fact that for me, it was never a competition. Like, our parents sometimes pitted us against each other because that's what parents do. They want to motivate each other. Like, oh, McKendra's going to be better than you, do all those things, right? And, you know, when you're younger, that kind of gets into your head. But now that I'm older, like, if she could go to NC State and beat every single one of my records, I'd be incredibly proud.
Can she?
I think, sorry?
Can she?
I mean, I think she could. She's a very different player than me. I am very much the workhorse. I am bigger. I am stockier. I'm more muscular. I move slower. I probably jump less than she does. I'm very
yeah, but hold on a second. Your footwork is impeccable. I've seen a lot of your moves. No, so give yourself a little bit of credit. You've spent a lot of time on footwork.
I have, and I think that was because I wasn't as naturally physically gifted as she is, because I had to do all those things. Her, on the other hand, she's so fluid. Honestly, we run on the track together, and I feel like when I'm running beside her, like an elephant. Like, it just like glides. Her stride is naturally like better than mine, and I've been training my stride. Like,
She's more agile. She's more agile and more nimble. Yeah.
Skinnier and more like fluid. So our games are kind of show that. Whereas I'm getting off a pick and roll and I'm going like my strengths are in pick and rolls and sets and getting sets, getting a good shot, passing, all those things. She works really well in fluid movements like up and down the court, one-on-one situations. She just moves better than me. So I think we're very different players, but she is incredibly skilled, and I think if she continues to grow from where she is now, she has more than enough potential that she could break all of my records.
Are you more like your mom's side of the family physiologically, and she's more like your dad's side of the family?
Well, I have never seen my dad's side of the family like when they were in their prime, so I'm not really sure, but I would say, I mean, my mom's side of the family, like my Aunt Erica, like, she played a lot like McKendra. Like, she was skinny and fluid in movement, and so was my Aunt Rachel, and so is Darren, but I'm more like my mom and her second eldest, like Natasha. So I think
Aunt Rachel, that explains it. Aunt Rachel. I knew there was a reason why.
I can tell you that your father at 20-some years old, who I had a chance to coach and work with at the Converse clinics at Snow College in the middle of nowhere in Utah, I can tell you, incredibly competitive, very athletic.
yes.
Very
unlike you.
Correct. Very difficult to guard. Very fluid, great footwork. I mean, he really had all the skills, and really that's why he went from, he was a guy that had fallen into the cracks where you're skilled enough to play, but nobody gets to see you, or the right people don't get to see you. And because of his skill set, he was able to add one or two things to it and wind up with a scholarship and get to play collegiately and train others.
Yes.
So
He was very good at that. I mean, I think his attention to detail. So I would say, like, in respects to my dad, my sister got his athleticism and kind of the way he moves, and I got his mentality. So I think that's how we would break that down. Yeah,
that's probably true. Well, it's really interesting to see two very skilled players, and the chapters aren't all written yet. Obviously.
Me and her? Are you talking about me and her?
I'll get to what I'm talking about, and no, I'm not talking about you. You talk about you. I talk about our guests.
Man, I don't get no love on this.
It's interesting to see two very talented basketball players both sort of go through the same training. Now, I know that whatever your dad did with you at 6 or 10 or 12, he's not doing exactly the same way for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as successful with her.
Right, right. And a good coach really looks at, what's there on the floor, what isn't being delivered, what needs to be delivered, and how to get it delivered. And so that's what I really respect about your family, and specifically your dad, because he does that. He makes an assessment, and it'll be great to see how McKendra develops and how you develop in terms of a pro game. And it's not too late to have a great relationship with your sister.
Yeah.
Never is.
So you love the pick and roll. You love coming off screens and reading and no, what?
It's time for this and that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, in a second. But I just want to know who's your favorite WNBA player, either past or present. And Kobe obviously was an inspiration to you, but was he your favorite player on the men's side?
My favorite player ever is Magic Johnson, and then Larry Bird right after, because
Wow.
I don't think, old school. Those are my favorite players of all time. I enjoyed how Magic, it was just fun. Like watching, like from what I watch on YouTube, Gordon, like just fun, exciting, had so much fun with the game. I felt like every moment he was playing, he was enjoying it. And then the work ethic and competitiveness of Larry Bird, I mean, those just absolutely amazing. And growing up in my household, it was like documentary after documentary about them, like every time. So I feel like the amount of exposure I got to those two probably had something to do with it. But ever since I was little, those were probably my two favorite on the men's side of all time. On the women's side, it's weird for female basketball players because of the lack of exposure and the short amount of time that WNBA has really been around in respect to rest of the sports, that growing up, I never saw a WNBA game in my entire life. Like that's so sad. Like, because you go and you're watching men's basketball, and all these boys growing up have all these players like, oh, I'm this player, I'm that player, and you're like, well, who am I? Like, And I think that's a huge issue with the lack of exposure, because you have all of these wonderful girls who are talented athletes who are not playing because they can't imagine themselves being in that same position. And I think the way that exposure has been picking up is incredibly important to the game of basketball. But by the time I was having serious exposure to the WNBA, especially coming from Canada, because we barely have exposure to NCAA, let alone WNBA, I was already on this level where I was comparing myself to them competitively. So obviously the greats, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, probably you would include Courtney Vandersloot, Allie Quigley, all of those players kind of in that same zone as me. Like, so much unbelievable respect and wanting to emulate the things they do to be able to get to that level was more of what I was looking at it as. It's more of like a comparison, like how do I be like the great players I'm watching, as opposed to this is my favorite player, this is it, because I can appreciate all of them now as a competitor as opposed to a spectator. So it's really sad that I don't really have a favorite WNBA player just because I never had exposure to it, but definitely those four have shaped the way I developed my game after that exposure.
Well, hopefully you get to that next step and you inspire the next generation of kids. And the games are not just on Twitter, but, they're on major networks, like the NBA is, because that's what you guys deserve for sure.
I'm going with Cheryl Swoops. Yeah, I'm going to go with
Cheryl Swoops.
Yeah,
that's
definitely. Well, she was definitely one of the pioneers for sure.
There was as an aside, when I was in Orlando, there must have been some kind of WNBA All-Star game or something. I don't remember the exact event, but it was literally, remember the league was pretty young. This would have been 98. So the league was pretty young, but I remember you're not supposed to do this, but I had a basketball that I got all of the WNBA players to sign, and Cheryl Swoops was obviously one of them that was there for that. And I don't know what happened to that basketball.
Wow.
Gone. Probably on eBay. I'll try to find it one day. But Mike, you can edit this out and go to this and that.
Yeah, right. So my favorite move in college was Kevin Johnson. You probably don't know who that was, but I still teach that move today, and it's one of the most efficient, direct moves that you can use to get to the basket quickly. Very deceptive. Gordon doesn't know what it is because he doesn't know anything except Bobby Knight and Martian.
He named the move after a mayor, as far as I'm concerned.
So that and the Steve Smith, which is sort of a fake spin move. But what's your favorite move if you had to go one-on-one, shot clock's under 7 seconds? And then the second part of that question is, what move are you working on now that's going to take your game to the next level?
So I think if I was coming down the floor, it would be have to be like a cross jab step. So you cross, jab away with your body and continue with the same way that you have the hand with the ball. That one was my favorite all through high school and college.
Is it working at the pro level?
It is.
Nice.
So, I mean, but I usually have a screen coming like right away anyway. So I can do that
true.
into a screen and it gets them set really well. So jump and then it opens up that screen. And then like I guess the next move, it's not like a dribble move, but I get this joke a lot that it's about my step back, like a step back jumper, a step back three. Like that's my favorite like finishing move, I guess I would say. There's a running joke that with Chris Hansen that I am the only player he knows that shoots better from a step back than from a set shot. So I mean, like, I was like, okay, I'll take that.
Wouldn't that be Chris Hansen's fault?
No, it's for sure my dad's fault. But I mean, yeah, no, Chris used to tease me when I was younger because I used to always go into a step back, and he's like, we would play one-on-one back when I was younger, and he's like, I can time your step back. Like, it's like, all right.
That's awesome.
Like, but it works great, like, when they don't know that. So thanks, Chris. But I think right now, something that I didn't really have an opportunity to do at NC State was get to the basket and finish as much. It just wasn't part of our plays and as a package for me, really. When I did, it was kind of like an impromptu moment, or like a shot clock was coming down and there was just something I had to create on my own. I think right now what I'm working on and trying to improve and get back to the way I was in high school a little bit, because after 4 years of shooting the ball religiously as opposed to attacking, getting to the basket and accepting contact and finishing in games. I can do it in practice, but that's something in games I'm very conscious of. Like I need to take it to the basket. I need to be more aggressive with my attacks and don't settle for that step back jumper to the short corner. So that's what I would be working on right now.
Nice. Well, if you ever are out here in San Diego, I'm going on record as saying that the KJ and the KJ counter are as close to surefire moves that will work at any level. So,
well, I'll have to come out and we'll have to work on it.
Come off a screen, you'll be open without any of that nonsense.
Oh, shut up, Gordon. All right, let's get to the this or that segment of the pod. All right, so give us your best answer, and then if you want to extrapolate on it in any way, you're more than welcome to, and then we'll leave the court for you to finish with any final comments that you want to share with the world. All right, Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky? It's a Canadian question, Gordon. That's why you're looking like you don't know what's going on.
I know who they are.
You don't know who they are.
I do.
You didn't even know they were both from Canada.
Yes, I did.
God.
Gretzky, for sure. The same competitive fire. I just love it.
Definitely. Okay. Favorite Disney movie?
Favorite Disney movie? Ooh, good one. We talking about originals?
Whatever you define it as.
We'll stick it to the originals. Okay, Mulan.
Ooh, that was good.
Yeah. Gordon, calm down. You don't even like... Gordon goes on every podcast and states for the record that he has nothing to do with this segment of the podcast, and now he's all fired up.
I didn't do it on this one. I've changed my ways, and now you had to bring it up.
God.
Wow,
Okay.
but yeah, no, Mulan, strong female character who didn't do everything she did for love. She did it for honor and family. So definitely my favorite.
Totally. Favorite non-Disney movie?
Oh, okay. So Braveheart, all-time
Wow.
favorite. Yeah.
Second favorite non-Disney movie?
Okay, it's like, right, same. It's the same plot. Gladiator. It's the same plot. It's just different characters. It's not. Take your pick. Like it's really like if you put them side by side, it's the exact same story, just told in a different setting, but unbelievable. So yeah, Gladiator second.
Did you know that the kilt wasn't popular in 1200 when that movie was set, and all those guys were wearing kilts? So it was completely anachronistic.
You needed the kilts for the scene where they flash their butts, okay?
I understand, but the kilt hadn't been invented yet. Ruins the whole movie for me.
Oh goodness, always the stickler for the details.
Yep, that's true.
Well, Gordon will say it's better to be in position and have good angles than it is to be athletic. So.
No,
Right,
I
Gordon?
won't say that.
No. Okay, well, that's surprising. I thought you would have.
Both are helpful.
I
Both
think I've
are
heard you
definitely
say
helpful.
that before.
Me?
Yes, me too.
Pretty sure I've heard you say that before.
No, you've never heard me say that. You barely listen to me.
Oh, says who?
Says me.
All right,
You're biased.
Degrassi. Yes, he's definitely that. I agree with Degrassi. Next Class or Schitt's Creek?
Schitt's Creek.
It's not spelled how all of you listening think
Now
it's
that
spelled.
question I don't understand. Gretzky and Lemieux, I get. That one I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think you would enjoy Schitt's Creek.
I feel like I'm living in Schitt's Creek right now.
SCHITT' is shits for all of you listening out there.
I don't know if you know what's going on here, but all that smoke has blown up the coast from California and all that wildfires, and it's like it's orange outside. It's like it looks like it's last days. It's a bad scene.
I've seen pictures.
Yeah, the air quality is like 325 and like bad is 150.
So is that why you're saying you feel like that you're living
It's
there?
Creek without a paddle.
Oh man. Well, we talked a little bit about social media earlier. TikTok or Snapchat?
I don't really use either. I have a Snapchat, but it's like my sister. I use it really only to talk to my sister, and I don't have a TikTok, so I guess Snapchat.
Okay, so Instagram or Twitter then?
I enjoy Instagram more, but I think Twitter is more social value, has more social value.
Interesting. Why? Wait, why?
Because I feel like Instagram is a constant performance. Everybody is trying to look their best, do their best, or be a certain way, whereas Twitter, I find, is more opinion-based and can drive more conversations.
Do you have aspirations to coach when you're done playing?
Yes and no. I think
25 years from now?
I feel like I would be good at it.
You would be great at it.
I feel like I would be good at it. You know, with Gordon and my dad always around, I have to gain some type of knowledge, right? No, I think I'd be good at it, but at the same time, I have seen the time requirements for it. I've seen the way the money requirements. I've watched my dad do it. I've watched college coaches like try and have families and do it, and I am so excited about the world and travel and doing all these things that I don't know if I'll ever have the time to get to it.
What was your major?
It's a mouthful, so bear with me, like the whole thing. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a concentration in marketing and a double minor in graphic communications and international studies.
Wow.
Wow, right.
That's impressive. I can just say this. If you had your dad and I around, what you would be as a coach is confused and angry. They basically sat in my driveway before I took the Skyline job and told me I was going to get fired before I had even started.
Okay, so if you're in a car by yourself singing, what song are you singing?
Ooh, I have such a wide range of like music taste. It could be anything from like
Country?
uh I actually enjoy a little bit of country.
And a little
So
bit of rock and roll.
I do enjoy a little bit of rock and roll. It could be anywhere from uh jazz to I do enjoy a little bit of electric. I just like enjoy beats and sounds that make you feel good. So it really is up in the air. It depends on my mood. I might have a Latin song on that I have no idea what they're saying. Or I could be listening to Frank Sinatra. Who knows? It just depends
Wow.
on the time of day and my mood.
That and the break.
Our entire warm up is reggaeton because it's all in Spanish, and I'm pretty sure they're swearing, but nobody knows it.
Hey, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, so we can play it loud, and the kids kind of like, okay, you know, at least it's not, you know, music from the 60s.
Yeah.
Well, that and the Braveheart question really surprised me. Okay, Grey's Anatomy or Orange is the New Black?
I didn't watch either of those. I would say
Wow.
House.
House, there we go. Oh, I loved House.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's like a good like middle ground there.
There, that's a good middle ground. Okay, Game of Thrones or Handmaid's Tale? Did you watch either one
Game
of those?
of Thrones. I haven't watched The Handmaid's Tale because my mom told me it'd make me too angry.
Oh, it was something.
And you know Tanya Gordon, so that would be bad if we watched that together.
Oh my gosh. Chinese or Japanese food?
Chinese food.
Vacuuming or dishes?
Dishes.
Or really, in your case, neither.
Hey, I'm taking care of my tiny little apartment here.
Well,
and
that's
just
a
fine.
switch, because I was in your room at the house, and that place needed a maid.
Don't expose me. I was only living there as a guest.
You said nothing was off limits.
Hey, roasting her. Wow.
I was living there as a guest, but I have to keep pretty clean because like my bedroom, I'm currently in my dining room, bedroom, and kitchen right now all at the same time. So, and like my bathroom is like right there. So
Wow, nice.
I have to keep it pretty clean.
Steve Nash or Kyrie?
Ooh, Steve Nash, gotta go with the Canadian. And I felt like Steve Nash has made his team better in a way that Kyrie hasn't shown yet.
Can't, won't, doesn't.
He's more of a scorer, and Steve Nash was a playmaker as opposed to a scorer.
I love what he does as a magician with the basketball. It's beautiful. It's amazing. You can see in everything he does the time investment and pride he takes in it. It's horrible for the game. It's the difference between.
So is it the same way that Jordan used to dunk and everyone tried to emulate dunking?
No, it's not the same. It's not at all the same. And I'll get to that in a second. It is completely appropriate for anything you do by yourself. But that's not how basketball was invented. It's invented.
I would say
he's
inefficient.
People. What's that?
I would say that the way he dribbles the ball is inefficient. He could do everything he's doing in half the amount of dribbles.
Maybe it doesn't foster very good team play in any way, shape, or form. And as Jordan goes, the thing that really made Jordan unique over the decades is that first of all, he had exposure, Sports Center, you could see him, and kids would go out and try to do things they didn't think they could do.
Mm-hmm.
They would try to fly. That's what I would say. They would try to fly, and because they did that, a whole generation of basketball players evolved differently. That's really different than standing in one spot and putting on 15 different moves and dribbling off a guy's forehead and putting it between his legs and laying it up.
Yeah. It's exciting when you watch it in the Uncle Drew movie, but yeah.
He should play for the Globetrotters.
All right, a couple more. LeBron or KD?
Ooh, I would have to say, I have so many friends who we have arguments about this all the time, and it's not like
send them the link after you answer this question.
Okay, I'm going to say LeBron because just of the sheer dominance he has, but I do have an issue with the competitiveness. There is no doubt in my mind that he's one of the best players to have ever played in the history of basketball. I will not be naive enough to say that he is not. But I feel like when you watch players like Michael Jordan, like Larry Bird, like Kobe, who had this fire, this you could just see, like, it was life or death for them every moment. You see it when Larry Bird dove the ball, broke his nose. You see it when Kobe ruptures his Achilles, still goes out and shoots those free throws. And it just, I'm not saying that LeBron isn't a fantastic player and one of the best to ever play, but in my mind, his competitiveness is not on par with some of the people he's compared with.
69% from the free throw stripe. That doesn't put you in the GOAT conversation for me.
Oh, come on. He's worked on every aspect of his game, just like Magic did.
69%. Connor Zabilski shoots 70%. You don't know who that is. You know why? Because it's a random kid who plays at my high school.
You know, people don't know that Larry Bird really had the first step back. You know, everyone says, Harden's the inventor of the step back. He's not. Larry had a step back and no one talked about it. Yep.
Corner step back. But also I feel like just like the willingness to sacrifice their body, to sacrifice themselves for the game was something that obviously the game has changed. Obviously the requirements for basketball have changed since then. But, you know, when you see LeBron sitting out games when other players were playing with broken noses, playing with all this because he had a cramp the last game, like that for me kind of limits his greatness. And not to say he isn't a fantastic player, that just limits him in my own mind. And yet,
in that conversation, and we've talked about this on the show, here he is having a very vocal presence, getting involved in voting rights, and doing things off the court that maybe I personally would have clamored for Jordan to even engage that kind of activity.
Oh yeah, for sure. He is by far an amazing role model and person in the community. He is leaps and bounds in front of people in terms of supporting underprivileged communities all through Ohio. All of those things are absolutely amazing. But if we're going to look at just at the body of work in basketball, right, I think that limits them.
Now, can you take him off the dribble?
I mean, I'll probably go to a step back three.
You probably would.
add a hezzy.
Yeah.
And go by him.
Yeah, no, probably not go by him. He will pin that to the backboard. I will do like a crazy. I mean, I can do the Harden step back. I've never done it in a game because I'm always afraid the refs are gonna say something. But and I'm not Harden, so they don't just believe me. But
now you're in Europe, right? Now you're in Europe, and isn't there? Can't you just walk right down the court without dribbling?
No, they're sticklers. So I was dribbling, and I have fairly large hands and a good control of the dribble. So I dribbled like this, and I brought it over somebody's hand to go do a layup. I didn't carry it. I didn't switch. I literally just controlled the dribble over, and they called me for a carry.
This from the same organization that has a 0 step.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know what that is, you're allowed to land on 2 feet, and it doesn't count as one of your 2 steps in terms of your shot or your layup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get closer to football every day.
Oh, Gordon. So, Gordon just flicked a rubber band at us. Okay, so do you think Steve Nash is going to be, since you chose LeBron and didn't choose KD, and we've already talked about Kyrie, do you think Steve's going to be a good fit for the Brooklyn Nets as their head coach? Gordon's putting on a mask. Jesus.
I'm not sure. I mean, I've never, you don't know how people are going to coach until they're put in those situations. And obviously where they go to coach and the players they have to interact with have like a lot to do with it. So, I mean, I think he is a great basketball mind, especially from all the stories my dad used to tell me of growing up in Victoria and playing against him and playing with him and pickup and stuff. And I've actually worked out with him at Simon Fraser a couple of times. So, I mean, I think that it's worth a shot to see. I mean, he's very knowledgeable, high IQ player, so I don't know how exactly that's going to translate into the coaching, but I think it could be great.
What was the question?
If Steve Nash is going to do a good job as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I wonder, like in baseball, there's an analogy where guys who weren't great, who weren't all-stars, tend to make very good managers because they weren't superstars. They had to have a different mentality about the game. And sometimes they're pitchers and sometimes they're catchers and sometimes they're,
Gordon, you know what time it is in Switzerland right now, right?
Yeah, midnight.
Right. Maybe she wants to go to bed.
Do you have a game tomorrow?
No, and it's only 10:53.
I know.
Fine.
But in basketball, I wonder if there's a correlation between, like I'm thinking about like Alvin Gentry and Doc Rivers and Avery Johnson and several Jason Kidd. You think there's any correlation between being a great player? It seems like all those guys are great players.
I mean, I think so, and also I think that it has a lot to do with ego, I feel like.
Yeah.
And when you're a great basketball player, especially like if you're coming from a point guard position like a Jason Kidd or even a Steve Nash, like I feel like as a point guard, there's oftentimes that you have to put your ego aside for the sake of the game, for the sake of the team. And I think that that's something that really great players on other sports potentially, or even in basketball, have an issue with once they become a coach, because it's no longer about you at all.
Right.
Really, like my favorite quote ever to throw at my dad, and we laugh about it, is coaches never win games, they only lose games.
That's true.
So when you have to put your ego aside, and your ego was what was driving you as a fantastic player before, I think that's where the fall off is. And I think that especially with Steve Nash, in his later years, how he started to play more of a role position as his career came to an end, I think that gives him a great opportunity to be a very good coach.
Well, if he has the time to do it, these days you last a year, and if you don't show results very quickly, somebody gets itchy, and
he's not going to last a year.
What's that?
He's not going to last a year. He'll be there longer.
Oh yeah, I agree. Have we finished this or that?
Nope. Last question, and then the floor, no pun intended, is hers. Okay, so you've known Gordon a long time, and you just met me. So if you had to do a yoga session, would it be with Gordon or me? Because we both teach yoga.
Tell him the truth.
I have done a session with Gordon before.
Oh, okay.
And well, it was weird. It was that the only session we've ever done is wall yoga. It's the one where you're strapped in the harness.
Hey, don't tell the truth. Lie. This is a good time to take up lying.
I feel like because I think that me and Michael would he'd be nicer to me. I feel like you would that's wrong. No, dude,
he would be nicer.
What are you doing? And you would ask me some really hard questions that stress me out.
You're right.
You're always like, oh, so that's your answer. Well, why is that your answer? Is it because of this? And you're like, Gordon,
I was just distracting you. I was just distracting you from the intense pain of the wall hanging.
And then you're like, here, I'm gonna extend your spine. All right.
So really, your yoga session, which was in Vancouver on a yoga wall, that was really for me.
And then we went and got vegan food before I became a vegan, and it messed my stomach up.
Yes, but it changed your entire dietary outlook.
Wow, you're a vegan?
I didn't become a vegan. I am, but I didn't become a vegan until 5 years later.
That's not my fault.
Actually, no, it is 7 years later.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference in your performance since you changed your diet and energy levels and stuff?
I have, actually. So because of my knee and ankle pain and foot pain that had no real origin. I'm actually writing a book about it right now with my nutritionist from college, my strength coach, and then a vegan chef that I know. So we're writing a book about how to do it in college properly, because I had teammates who tried it but didn't really didn't know how to do it, didn't buy in, and it caused vitamin deficiencies and stuff. So we're writing a book about that.
The title?
The plant-based athlete collegiate edition is like what I'm thinking about right now. So we're gonna
Perfect.
see.
And when should we expect that to be completed?
Well, we're in the beginnings of it right now. It's not supposed to be super long, so it shouldn't take too long. But I have to go through my agent and talk to a publisher and stuff. So we'll see. I want to get a rough draft, and then try and push it to a publisher and then see what we can do with that. But
So would it be optimistic to say June of 2021? We should expect to see that?
oh yeah, I'm gonna have it. I think because it's not gonna be a huge. It's supposed to be beginners. It's supposed to be a pretty easy read, simple because it's for college athletes who don't want to read all that much if they don't have to. So yeah, I think I'll have it. Like I'm shooting for within the next 6 months.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
What?
but my knees and ankles were really hurting for no explainable reason. Like we did all the injuries, no injuries. I was just in a lot of pain, couldn't walk after games.
Wow.
And I've been struggling with losing some weight. I had moved to North Carolina, which is a very different type of diet than I was used to on the West Coast.
Yeah, deep fried Twinkies.
Basically, I mean, at the fair for sure. But just dealing with some of that, and also no matter how much I trained, my fitness just wasn't getting better. So I did pescatarian for a while, still didn't feel as good as I could. Read an article that I cannot seem to find. I sent it in emails, but it's gone. I don't know where it went. It makes me sound crazy because people are like, oh, let me read the article. I can't find it. I'm sorry. But that was talking about the like maximum exertion and like how long that those athletes could stay at that level and then repeat after recovery, and then also like injuries and inflammation. And I read that and I was like, okay, I need to go directly to vegan. So
Wow.
I switched to vegan, and I've been a vegan for a year and like almost 3 months now.
That's amazing. It's
And
not
it's
easy
very
to be a
hard in
healthy
Switzerland.
vegan. Yes, I was going to say.
Now,
Yeah.
now, Aislin, where did you first find that article? Was that on the National Institute of Health?
Maybe.
I was just going to say, Gordon's going to find it.
Is it entitled Exercise Capacity of Vegan Lacto-Ovo-Vegetarians? Is that the article?
No, it wasn't about vegan over vegetarians. It was about vegans over regular people.
So vegans aren't regular people?
No, we have more willpower.
There you go.
Yeah, no, but it's very difficult here. I'm not going to say I'm a perfect vegan while I'm here. Like when I'm cooking at home, I'm completely vegan. I do every once in a while, like I have eggs here because I'm on the go all the time. So I will eat an egg here or there, but so not perfect. But, and when I'm traveling, if they're feeding us and I don't have a choice, I eat vegetarian because there's the language barrier, and then we're traveling and it's either eat vegetarian or don't eat at all, and that's not really feasible for an athlete. So I'm not perfect, working on it, trying to find ways to get it to that level. Like in college, I was a perfect vegan.
I can just say you are the sports deli's perfect vegan.
That's right.
Mostly because you're the only vegan we've had on.
That we know of.
Awesome. I mean, I will take that. It's better than nothing. But I think give it some more time. I've only been here 3 weeks, so give it some more time, and I will eventually figure out how to be the perfect vegan here again.
So anything else that you want to share in any area that we haven't covered? We covered a lot, so we really appreciate your time. It's been amazing, and I love, I've always wanted to have professional women's basketball players on, or, professional soccer players on the women's side. I just think, you don't have enough of a voice, and you should. And I have a feeling that you're going to make it to, the bigs over here eventually, even though, a lot of people have made a lot of money overseas for a long time. It's still, I think, the pinnacle for a lot of people. And if those are your aspirations, I hope that you get there and keep working on that KJ and that Steve Smith, and it'll take you far.
Man, if things don't go well here in November, stay in Switzerland.
Okay.
That's very true. But I am a Canadian. I do have another option.
I don't know. Get a bigger place, because you're going to start having to house some of us.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Well, you guys will help me pay rent so we can get a nice little apartment.
Yeah, I can just see me trying to get a job in Switzerland.
Hey, you could come coach one of the younger teams.
Uh-huh. Yep.
All right. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Uh, no, thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure. Always is, Gordon. It was a lot of fun. It's a good way to end my day off. So thank you for having me on, and I just super happy to be able to do this. Also, if you want to have a professional soccer player on, I do know Zara King, who plays for the Utah Royals, and she might be interested because she's very involved in some of the social justice stuff that's happening in the soccer league. So
Oh yeah, that would
I think that
be amazing. That would be awesome.
We want to start doing a better job of networking from current guests to other guests. So that's something we're certainly interested in pursuing.
Can we watch your
Perfect.
games?
These ones are friendly, so they don't want film.
Right.
But once we get into like league play, they should be streamed. I'm not sure what, I think it's either on YouTube or Facebook, but I will definitely put that out. Sounds like you guys are following me on Twitter, so
Yep.
I will put that out on Twitter, and then we can make sure everybody can watch.
Now, are the European women's games, are they broadcast there in Switzerland so that somebody could pick up that feed?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it'll only be after the fact that you could pick it up.
No, it would be live, like off
Okay.
of YouTube or Facebook.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you had some good role models growing up, and you know, people can open doors for you, but you know they can't keep you in that space. And you've been in a lot of spaces, and you know your future spaces are definitely going to be amazing. I think down the road because you're well-rounded, you're grounded. You know your IQ on and off the court is impressive, and I don't know you like Gordon does, but I've been thoroughly impressed by, you know, how multifaceted you are, and however long ball takes you down the road, you know, you'll do great with it. But I think life after ball as well, you're going to make an impact in so many different ways. So
Well, thank you
it was a
much.
pleasure.
Gordon, your turn to compliment me.
Okay. You sure?
No, I don't want it because it's
Too
gonna
bad.
be backhanded
You asked for it, now you're
compliment.
getting it. I was just
It's gonna
talking.
be backhanded. I don't want it anymore.
I was just talking to your dad the other day about how well I think you're going to do in your postgraduate life because of really a lot of the things that Mike just said. I mean, I think first of all, you present well. You're articulate, so you're able to get your points across. You have an understanding of where the social media component fits in terms of developing, you know, a brand for yourself, which you have to have no matter like it or don't like it. You have to have it. I think you're good around other people that are not your family. You may not have a great track record in that at the house, but I think
It's getting better.
good. Yeah, it's good. That's good. And in terms of your skill set, I mean, I don't feel qualified to evaluate your basketball skill set because I know I'm a fan of the women's game, and being a fan of something is radically different than being a coach of it. So whatever Mike's feedback is about your skill set, it carries much more weight. You're much easier to get along with than your father. That's for sure. And I think you are perfectly placed at this intersection to be an ambassador of the game. And I think for me, that's the highest compliment because of my connection to basketball that ties into passion. And I've given up a lot of things for basketball, and I think most people who are in it have given up a lot of things for basketball. But you're in great position to be an ambassador of the game and to represent and hold the game well with integrity and honesty and truthfulness. And I don't think there's a higher compliment to get than that one, mostly because it came from me.
Oh yeah, of course. Any compliment from you, right?
I mean all that stuff. I don't give out
backhanded thing.
I don't hand out, you know, that I wouldn't say that to most people. I wouldn't say that to most people because it's not true.
Definitely not me.
I would not say that to Mike. I would say something different to Mike.
Yep. You did this morning.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Stop texting me. But those things are all true, and they're not just my truth. I think they're the truth. They're the higher truth. You will be, if you decide to be, you will be an ambassador to the game. You will impact other people, and you'll do it wherever you are. It won't matter whether you're in Switzerland or whether you're in Charlotte. You'll do it because you're who you are, and because your exuberance for the game effervesces, bubbles forth from you as a person.
Oh, Gordon, I think this is the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I think you just changed your mind on who she wants to do yoga with now.
It's nothing new that I've thought. It's just something new that I've shared. I've always thought that, but we needed to see what was going to happen when you got through college first.
I get it.
All right, Aislin. Well, we appreciate it. Good luck in the upcoming game. How many more friendly games do you have before? Was it called League Conference? What's it called?
So Swiss League doesn't start until October. So we have a couple more friendlies coming up throughout this time, and then it's just a mess right now because we're in Euro Cup as well, and Euro Cup got pushed back from November to January. So it's just kind of, we're not really sure what's happening, but I'm still getting paid, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, the first 4 games have gone really well for me.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Is anything on fire there in Switzerland?
No, nothing is on fire here.
I think you should count your blessings because it's like an inferno here everywhere. It's really.
How are things with COVID there? Like, do you have to get tested every day? How do you have an unofficial bubble?
Mike, do you know what time it is in Switzerland?
I know, but I'm sorry. You got to ask
No,
about COVID.
I can answer this question. We have to wear masks in the facility, but we're allowed to practice after temperature check as long as we don't have symptoms. We're allowed to practice. We don't have to be tested every day. I did have to get tested when I flew into Austria because I could get tested and then travel straight to Switzerland from Austria. But the Americans who came, they had to quarantine for 10 days automatically. So and then if you will come in contact with somebody who has COVID, unless you are somebody in the first circle, so if you're like family member or somebody who has really close contact with them, so like if you practice with them, like that would be considered first circle, but like say if one of the men got it, we would be considered second circle and we wouldn't have to be tested.
So what's the nonverbal sign for having a COVID test? Is it this?
Gordon's pointing to his
when
nose.
when I got mine in Austria, they just took it by mouth.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with the season, and we're excited to watch you and follow you, and just keep evolving. And that's probably the most important thing. Just get your game to the next level, whatever that takes. I know you will, because your work ethic and your mindset is in alignment with those things. So I applaud you for everything you've done so far, and the best is yet to come.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for so much time.
Yeah, really. No kidding. That was amazing.
We miss you.
I miss you too, Gordon.
Take good care.
I will. Find a reason to come out to Switzerland.
Oh, Switzerland. I can't even find a reason to go to Idaho.
Well, Switzerland, there's no fires. We already talked about it.
That's a good point. There's also no Trump supporters, probably.
Oh, well, I hope not.
In Switzerland, yeah. Okay, see you soon.
Okay, bye. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
Okay, see you.
Bye.
Where's John?
John's watching football, drinking Diet Coke, and eating pizza with Wendell.
He didn't even respond to the texts.
He's probably driving while he's drinking Diet Coke.
I am playing golf. I thought this was tonight. If now, I am out. We know that, you idiot.
John has left the building.
You're still recording this. Okay, so that means you're going to put this on and I'm going to seem silly.
Oh man, that was.
I think isn't that the whole purpose of the show? You're like, how can I properly embarrass Gordon? What if I set up a show, and then I get him on it, and I record every ridiculous thing he's ever said, and then I've got it in perpetuity on the internet, and he can't deny it.
That's what I did with Wendell.
Isn't it all? What do they call that when some people get together and they make a plan on their own that they don't tell everybody about? Conspiracy.
Conspiracy. There you go.
It's a conspiracy.
She's great.
She is great. She's great across the board. It's not that she's not just a great player, but she is a great representative of basketball, and she's a great role model for young players. And I think she's going to be. She's already amazing. I think she's going to be amazinger.
Yeah, she's going to be amazinger, and she talked about it in another podcast, but it definitely seemed like the pandemic caused her to slip a little in the draft, possibly, or.
Well, I don't know. I can't speak to that. I can say I think she. What was that? What was the Tom Cruise movie where they lost the song "You Lost That Loving Feeling"? She lost that loving feeling for the game briefly.
Interesting.
And that's when I think, and I wasn't there, but she mentioned her weight gain. I think she wasn't in as good a shape as she needed to be. She wasn't training as hard as she needed to be. I think she had some reasonable distractions in life, normal, distractions in life, not things that were ridiculous, things that we all, take for granted, relationships and social events and things like that I think got in the way of, her stock being as valuable. But that's just one person's opinion. Yeah,
well, seems like she's on a good path now. Maybe it's either one step backward, 2 steps forward, or a blessing in disguise. So.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a blessing in disguise. I think it's, it's a known pathway to go put in some time in Europe, and it's not ridiculous. And the world is very small these days, and people know who she is, and she has a presence. And
it's not like the men's game. The men have to go overseas before they can come back. A lot of times the women, it's a better situation overseas. Not saying that it is for her, but the women's game is very different than the men's game in that way.
Yeah, but it's not like this is her first rodeo. Like she's from another country already. Granted, it's Canada, but she's from another country, and she's got a dual citizenship. I think where did she say she came from?
Austria.
Maybe? She might have a citizenship in Austria. So, she's not new to sort of the global community.
Her sister is on the Austria national team.
Yeah. I think it was the U16.
Yeah. That'd be cool to watch her.
She's very skilled. She plays locally.
Yeah.
She plays here locally.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Cool. All right. Well, until possibly Essence Carson tomorrow on the podcast. Anything else for the good of the cause? Great time with you and her. That was awesome.
Peace out.
All right. Off to work. I'm 45 minutes late. I'm going to be an hour and 15 minutes late. So I already messaged him and told him it's,
I've got something Tuesday night. So that's not going to interfere with anything. I can go ahead and book that. Yeah,
Tuesday. I won't ask Seth Tuesday, obviously. I'm going to try and get Seth next week, because if we have Essence tomorrow and we have Sam Sunday, that's already 3 this week.
It's somebody wants me to be on their podcast, strangely enough.
Wow, look at you. Okay, go ahead and do the Running Man or something that, don't do whatever you're doing right now, because that's not a thing.
All right, buddy.
Wait, what podcast? Can we plug it?
What's
it about?
Let me see what it is.
Is it Dan Dickow again?
No. Dan's busy interviewing Eric Musselman when we should be.
Is he really?
Yeah, he interviewed Musselman.
Wow. It's disappointing. You didn't close the door on it.
I didn't close the deal. You're right. I admit it. He said it's called Coach Cast with Cadillac.
Wex needs to be on that. What is this, like a national?
I don't know. He said something, but once we get on Zoom, I have to crop your window into the streaming software, and I'll test everything. Blah 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 blah. Sounds very professional.
That's like Aislin was on one of those types of things where.
Oh, like a split screen.
Yeah, you can save the Zooms and I think split screens or where everyone is seen. but because that would be interesting if we ever post a
Coach
video.
Cast with Cadillac,
That is hilarious.
starring Chad Smith.
I can't wait to listen to that. Have you seen if he's got a lot of traction?
I think I'm his second guest.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's because.
I told him he could do better.
Where is he located?
He's in Oregon somewhere because he's got a 503.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know that for sure. But. All right, cool. I'm off to work, brother. Good job, man.
All right, enjoy.
All right, everybody. Great job. And much love. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for sharing space with us today. We truly hoped you enjoyed that amazing interview. Remember, everyone, Black Lives Matter. Stop the bullying. Stop the Asian hate. Contact your local and state politicians for any inequalities, for any individual or any group that's being marginalized. Also, everyone, we want to raise awareness for those individuals that are currently imprisoned for non-violent offenses, in particular those with long-term sentences that are disproportionate, in particular to those people in the Black and brown community. And I want to send a shout out to 40tons.co. 40 Tons is a socially conscious cannabis brand, and they're a social enterprise using the regulated cannabis industry to fight injustice, in particular for cannabis prisoners. So check them out again at 40, the number 4, the number 0, tons, plural, 40tons.co, because what they're doing in the cannabis space and being a socially conscious company is truly incredible, and they have my full support. And also wanted to remind all of you, if you're having a tough time, you can always call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that number is 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, and they are available 24/7, 365 days a year. You can also always check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at Mike Hootner. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors, Breaking Tea, Sport RX, PSK Collective, City Lokes, and Moolah Kicks, which you can see right here up on the screen. You can search them online at breakingtea.com, sportrx.com, pskcollective.com, moolahkicks.com, and citylokes.com. And if you'd like to support us at the Sports Deli, we'd love to have you either make a one-time donation or feel free to make a donation monthly, either 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month. If you have questions about that, send me an email again to thesportsdeli@gmail.com, and I will send you the link on how you can do that. You can also find it at the bottom of every podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Link at the bottom to support the show. Please check out our website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. Make sure that we continue the conversations with regards to 3 strikes and you're out and mandatory minimums, especially people that are in jail for non-violent offenses. So those things need to change. And remember, gents and ladies, please remember to do your monthly self-breast examinations. And remember, guys, this afflicts about 1,500 men annually, with about a third of those resulting in death. So we want to make sure that we do our monthly self-breast examinations, both men and women. And guys, remember to do your self-testicular examinations every month as well. Until next time, remember, it takes a village. For Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. This has been a production of Hootie Hoot Productions. Thank you for joining us in the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. Remember, it takes a village. Much love, everybody. Peace.
Hey everyone, if you're still with us, we hope you enjoyed today's outtakes from today's podcast.
Is this meeting being recorded?
Yeah, of course. What do you mean? Why would you even ask that
Sorry,
question?
nobody told me that this would be a recorded show. Where's Wex? Where's Aislin, more importantly?
John's probably watching football with Wendell. They probably have a secret podcast going on right now.
Are they naked?
Jesus Christ.
Bad
I don't know
visual,
which one.
right?
I don't know which one I don't want to see more.
Yes.
Where's the sports deli background? You have all kinds of room.
Sorry, hang on. I don't have a sports deli background. I haven't figured out how to put all my shit up yet. How do you get that stuff in the background hanging up? Is that a wall back there?
Yeah, we took the Toro motor out and we put.
Okay, nice. Oh, how can I not? I don't have any background.
Aislin's coming in, so John's not. You want to text John and just ask if he's coming. If not, then Aislin's here. So, are you ready for me to let her in or no?
Oh, I'm sure. Why not?
All right, here we go. Hey, Aislin.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. We don't know if Dr. J's coming, but we're
not the real Dr. J. Before you get too excited.
Gordon, what is that background?
It's the sports deli background.
That's horrible.
Bite me.
How is the Wi-Fi quality from my end?
That's pretty good. There's no delay. Wait, where are you in the States? No.
I am in Switzerland.
Wow, that's amazing.
Guy's not even. He's read your bio like for 3 straight days. He's read your bio, and now he's.
I didn't know if she's there yet. I didn't know if she was there yet. God.
Yeah, we had a game yesterday.
Really?
Did you want to do something with your hair before the show starts?
I just wanted to put it back a little bit better than it was.
You know how many TikTok videos I've seen on hair for my daughter in the last month? Oh, they have some amazing videos on how to do your hair in a bun and a messy bun and a dress bun. It's amazing.
Okay.
I believe it.
More information than I need, Coach.
Coach, do you even know what TikTok is?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. It's a form of spying, so you're good.
I have no idea. In fact, I'm not going to be engaging in TikTok anymore because I saw this documentary the other day.
Was it from my tweets?
That told me I should get rid of all my social media. In fact, I'm not even going to be able to be on this call.
Wow, Zoom's even too much for you.
It's pretty intense. Let me text John and see if he even knows what's going on.
I did watch because of your tweet, by the way.
Really?
I did.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, right?
Crazy.
Terrifying, but it's okay. We all agreed to that, did we?
Well, it's less scary for us. It's more scary for the teenagers, the middle school people. Oh, there we go. That's solid.
Go right there.
Nice. Walk out, Coach Moore.
The question is, what year was that?
This last year.
Last year.
Oh, yeah, I was.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You wanted some Bushwood pictures from high school?
Oh goodness. Brookswood?
Whatever. It's Canada.
Come on, show some respect.
I was there.
I know, exactly.
I was there for the 4th one. Just because I missed the first 15 years of your basketball career, that's Frank's fault. That's not my fault.
This is true. Always blame it on Frank.
That's right. Especially when he's not here. All right,
I
don't know what John's doing. Hey, why don't we just go, and if John shows up, he shows up. I mean, it's not like we didn't say what time this was 1,000 times.
Exactly.
Hey, if I can figure it out from Switzerland.
That's right.
Well, John's different.
Yeah, John is very different.
He's the only guy I know who travels on every play.
She has
him and Russell Westbrook.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Yeah, LeBron is the guy I'm going to pick on in the league.
Wait, why?
Got into a little shoving match. Okay, Mike, go ahead, do your thing.
Okay, we'll do this a lot of the intro after, so we don't waste too much time. But we'll just start with whatever we're going to start with, and then besides you, we might have Essence Carson coming on from the Connecticut Sun, and so she's been in the league a long time. And what we want to do is, you know, talk about not just sports, but things that have to do with a lot of things that you're tweeting about and that, you know, you're passionate about as well. And I want to talk about the LGBTQ community as well, and we're sort of where we've come. And
I'm comfortable talking about all of it. We're good.
Okay, cool. All right.